Survival horror games are able to capture something that real life has as well. The feeling of constant tension and stress while moving through tight corridors or misty environments, wading through the horrors of the virtual world trying to get back to the sweet, soothing feeling of a save room. To me, life can be pretty similar to that. We all have to leave our save rooms at some point and head back out into the uncertainty of the world, going through our own lives, handling trials and tribulations as they come, only to once again return to our sanctuaries. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of a new chapter for the channel. My name's Lance Plus, and today we're diving into a new genre. We have already discussed a bit about character action games and just action games in general, so I thought it was a good time to talk about some survival horror, specifically the Resident Evil series. With the recent release of RE4 Remake, my survival horror soul was rekindled and I just knew I had to make this one. Survival horror was one of the first genres I got to experience as a wee lad, and horror in general was quite prevalent in my childhood, whether that be films such as The Mist, The Thing, Candyman, or even something a little more comedy-centric like Zombieland. Horror has always been a genre that I've found fascinating because of the places you're able to travel within your mind to forge some of these downright disturbing and nauseating worlds. Survival horror games may be delivered to you in a slimy, grotesque-looking package, but what lies inside for you are a plethora of timeless stories about humans overcoming their worst fears and confronting their darkest memories. In any great story, I believe there is knowledge to be gained. Of course, we all play video games and whatnot for fun, but I think it's important to really think about why you truly enjoy whatever you may like to do. In this particular case, I really just can't get enough of the ambience and sometimes solace that these worlds specifically provide. Now let's take the plunge into this puzzle-riddled, creature-infested, beautifully mysterious world of Resident Evil. Resident Evil is a survival horror video game series developed and published by Capcom. The series typically revolves around a group of characters who fight against hordes of zombies and other mutated creatures while trying to uncover the mysteries of a pharmaceutical company called the Umbrella Corporation. All of the games have Umbrella playing a part in them, whether that being a major or minor role. Some of the games even present the opportunity for multiple playthroughs, with the option of picking between two characters that have slightly different story changes. Trust me, you will definitely want to give all of these games multiple runs. The more you play and memorize certain things just feels amazing. It's very rewarding. Each character will most of the time have a different starting weapon, so you can play with a new toy on a fresh game. Not only just starting weapons, but sometimes entirely new weapons specific to their run. Similar to my beloved Devil May Cry, Resident Evil even scores you at the very end of your run, so you can indeed still strive for that legendary S rank. Although it's not a big deal, I just find it cool that the idea of getting a high score on your favorite game can still exist, you know? High scores and alternate weapon choices aside, I do believe RE has a pretty basic premise, of course, but it is executed excellently. Story-wise, I think each game varies in quality, but overall they are serviceable and most importantly, they're really fun. The special thing about RE is if you enjoy a more action horror style of things, you can pick up something like Resident Evil 4 Remake or its classic counterpart. If you enjoy a nice slow burn of tense thrills and great atmosphere, you can pick up Resident Evil 2 Remake or its classic variant as well. The introduction of the Remake Collection is a Resident Evil fan's dream, being able to see your favorite classic RE game in the gorgeous RE engine. It's a blessing. Capcom seems to be steadily building up their portfolio of remasters, if you would like to deem them as such. From classic titles to their remastered variants, everyone will have something that is tailored to their tastes. My personal recommendation is always between Resident Evil 7 if you enjoy a first-person perspective, or you can start with RE2 Remake if you enjoy third-person a little bit more. Do be warned though, they are both just as terrifying as the other. RE7 gives me the heebie-jeebies. I love that game so much though. Oh my, perfection. Enough about all this stuff though. Let's get into what makes these hellish halls and nightmare-fueled adventures so beautiful. Atmosphere in gaming is something I value greatly, and I'm sure you do as well. Every great game will always evoke strong emotions in the player. The atmosphere of the game is one of the many aspects that allows things to be that way. The way in which Capcom goes about doing environmental storytelling is masterful, following a smeared blood trail from one room to the next to find a once human, now zombified Raccoon City police officer, eyes glazed over looking like they have two fogged up windows to view out of. Small scenes such as that to finding a couple journal entries from the same zombified cop whose head you most likely made explode by planting a nice bullet between his eyes. Walking around any RE game gives you this sense that before you hit the new game button, there were already people doing their best to survive this nightmarish hellscape. The use of things like VHS tapes that you can find and watch to see the events of the past play out are just genius. It's a small addition, but one that I think only improved the world building and increased the overall spooky factor, always leaving the thought in your mind of, am I going to turn out just like them? Aside from the little journals and environmental details, these games are just downright stunning to look at. The level design, especially in the RE engine, will make your jaw drop with some of the locales they crafted. Do not get me wrong though, classic RE titles look amazing in their own right, but you'd be a fool to say RE engine isn't pulling its weight and so much more. All good looking games have one thing in common, and that is lighting. The way light functions and produces shadows in current Resident Evil games is insane. One of the reasons the environmental storytelling is so good is because the lighting brings a whole new layer of spook to an environment. You can see a shadow cascade onto a wall for a brief moment that shows you a large creature just passed by, and you can prepare to face it in the coming moments. These don't blink moments are really cool to experience. Even just seeing the silhouette of a zombie in a window is terrifying. Small stuff like this just makes the moment-to-moment gameplay a thrill ride. Depending on where you decide to begin your journey, the combat mechanics can vary ever so slightly. With this being the case, it's important to know which game has what you're looking for. The classic RE games with fixed camera angles are Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, and 0. The new era of Resident Evil with the iconic third-person camera began with RE4 in 2005 and continued for RE5, 6, both Revelations games, and all the current remakes outside of the remastered Resident Evil game released in 2015. We also have what I call the Winter's Saga, which began with Resident Evil 7 and is expanded upon in Resident Evil Village, which is 8. The Winter Saga is also first person, but with the release of the Shadows of Rose DLC for RE Village, you can now play through the main campaign in third person as well. All of the RE games, even if the camera perspective is shifted, will play out about the same, aside from RE6. We don't really talk about RE6. We leave that there. Anywhoosies, the name of the game has always been conserving ammo, popping zombie heads when necessary, solving puzzles, and doing inventory Tetris with a nice little bit of boss fights sprinkled around and on top. It's a formula that has shown to be great time and time again, and I'm certainly not complaining. Each game ramps up the craziness as you dive deeper into the madness, revealing hidden labs and cult secrets, getting mixed up in the wrong business with the worst kinds of people, if you could even still call them people, more like abominations. As I mentioned earlier, if you prefer a slower paced spooky experience, you should absolutely play Resident Evil 7. It's the perfect jumping in point for a new Resident Evil player, I promise you. Now that we also have a Resident Evil 4 remake though, I must say if you want to get into some high octane infected suplexing action, you have to play RE4R. The game is just genuinely a blast to play through and rerun, as they all are really, but RE4 is a very special gem. Since these games always have you constantly treading through the same areas to backtrack and open up doors that were previously locked, the opportunity for subsequent runs is great. You become one with locations such as the Spencer Mansion or the Raccoon City Police Department. By the end of a run, you will know these locales like the back of your hands. No longer stumbling through the maze, now you float over it and get right where you need to be. From the zombies roaming the streets of Raccoon City to the Baker family in their dilapidated estate, Resident Evil is filled with some of the most vile beasts to ever grace a screen. The texturing down to the small wrinkles on a monster's back looks superb. The regular infected with their blood-shined hands and missing jaws are just disturbing to see hobble around. Special infected, as I like to call them, like the lickers from RE2, just stand out amongst the sea of creatures. As soon as you walk into a hallway or room, you can sense when a licker is around, scouring the walls looking for claw marks or hearing the sound of their breathing, only to be pounced on moments later and turned into a nice diced vegetable. Paired with the crazy visuals of the creatures, we have a soundscape of terror surrounding us at all times. A quiet moment filled with the small sounds of rainfall on the windows can be interrupted by any and all around here. The sounds of zombies wailing in the distance mixed with the ambience of the rustling trees and bushes oddly brings me a sense of solace. Solace is something Resident Evil is able to capture incredibly. Overcoming life-threatening encounters, stumbling into a save room and being showered with the soothing sounds of safety is a feeling no other game can provide quite like this. Soundtracks are always very important in any entertainment medium because tunes really set the scene, you know? And boy, does Capcom set the scene just right every time. My playlists are filled to the brim with Resident Evil music and just RE inspired music in general because of how great these pieces can be. Ambient tracks to full ensembles with blaring horns and epic scale, it's all quality. None of the music overstays its welcome. The way each track is mixed sounds very professional, and I really didn't expect anything less. The flow from ambience to a full musical score is done excellently, so kudos to Capcom for creating this cozy yet spooky soundscape. It's about that time, everyone. Let's hear what our fellow survivors have to say about what makes Resident Evil and survival horror in general so special to them. William dropped this comment I personally related to because with horror in general, it just takes a lot for me to get truly spooked. I have a hard time getting scared, and survival horror has gotten me the closest. Direct Charity 7101 had this to say on the overall gameplay and progression towards mastery. I enjoy the loop of assessing my inventory, then planning a strategy for the next room. I'm okay dying a lot. Each death is a learning experience, then the payoff is a perfectly optimized run through a section of the game. Goat Manboy left their thoughts on the time it takes to complete a survival horror / Resident Evil game. Honestly, their length? I mean, I do enjoy horror in general, be it campy or more cerebral, so I love the atmosphere of a good survival horror, and yeah, exploration, resource management, risk-reward, decision-making, and the good old power creep are all gameplay elements that tick my boxes, but in the end, I'm just really glad if a game is beatable in 1 or 2 evenings. All of the many RE games have a plethora of aspects to love, and I always appreciate getting to chat with the community about what makes these games we love so damn awesome. If you're interested in reading more of the comments in the Reddit threads, both links will be in the description below. I've been playing Resident Evil games for a bit over a decade now. My first game being RE4 on the Wii of all consoles. RE has been a constant love throughout my life thus far, and I don't see that stopping at any point in the future. The thing that makes it so special to me is the feeling you get of going into an encounter cluelessly and seeing what plays out. As things unfold, the decisions that you make in those life or death situations make or break your run. Coming out of a boss battle unscathed in Resident Evil requires maximum focus and effort, with the reward of some nice loot of course, but ultimately the feeling of being an unstoppable force. If it isn't clear already, the feelings it bestows upon the player are what makes RE so unique. Great media in all forms are able to pull emotions from the viewers. In this case, we aren't the viewer. The wonderful aspect of video games is that we can establish a deeper emotional connection with the stories that we take part in. When watching something like Dragon Ball Z, when Goku accomplishes an incredible task, it's awesome to be able to take in the spectacle of it all, and maybe even get a little teary-eyed just because it's so damn beautiful and you just love seeing Goku win. At the end of it all, though, that was Goku's win, and in a way, yes, as a viewer, we get to feel a sense of victory because it took a long, arduous battle to gain this W, but we didn't really participate in said battle. What I'm getting at here is Resident Evil puts you into super spooky situations, and you, as the player, get to figure out how to win, how to overcome, how to conquer. I'm positive that all of our characters are terrified throughout their whole journey, but they never backed down. They never allowed fear to stop them from taking the next step. You never allowed fear to stop yourself from taking the next step. We walk the path alongside these characters, and by the time those credits roll, you have changed just as much as they have. Forward was the only way to go, and nothing, not even a menacing, 7-foot fedora-wearing, pale big boy is gonna stop that. Perseverance in the face of terror shows a true display of courage, and every protagonist in Resident Evil is there to be a vessel for you to merge with and overcome adversity. If you can face the horrors of a Resident Evil game, then you can without a doubt walk away with that same courage our favorite protagonists display. Well, here we have arrived yet again at the end of another video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Very special thank you to Survival Spheres for letting me use some of their tunes for this video. I've been listening to Survival Spheres' original tracks and remixes of Resident Evil and Silent Hill music for a long time, and I always told myself if I were to ever start a project with horror being the theme in any way, I would use all of my favorite Survival Spheres music. So again, very big thank you to Survival Spheres for blessing me with the right to use their amazing music for this video. Be sure to go check out Survival Spheres on YouTube as well as Spotify and Apple Music. Also, let me know what your favorite Resident Evil game is and why. Honestly, after RE4R came out, I'm really in love with that game, but RE2 might be winning still. It's a tough one. I find myself just having more and more fun making these videos, so I shall not be stopping anytime soon, so you can bet on that. I want to have some smaller videos to have something in between these larger productions, so be on the lookout to see some of those vids in the very near future. All I'll say on those for now is they will be more indie-centric in terms of the games we discuss, and I'm very excited about that. As far as the next cinematic thing, I won't say too much, but we will most likely be staying in the Capcom wheelhouse, but who knows, maybe I'll throw a bit of a curveball. Until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, night, or whatever the heck time it may be, and I'll catch you later. Peace.